Hey friends, welcome back to my sewing room. My name is Becca, and in today's video we're going to talk about my favorite rotary cutter. This is the Martelli rotary cutter. I'm going to show you how to use it, talk about why I love it, and tell you where you can get one just like this. So if you've been around my channel for a minute, you know that this is my cutting tool of choice, and it's not because I started off using this. I actually started off quilting using one of these bad boys. I graduated up to this, and when Martelli had a sale on their rotary cutters, I picked one of these up, and it really is life-changing. It does take a little bit of time to get used to it, but once you do, trust me, this is amazing. So let's talk about how to use it. Well, with a traditional rotary cutter, you always kind of hold it like this. At least that's how I was taught to hold it. I know some people kind of do this number, but honestly, I don't know which one's correct. I feel like I get better cuts when I hold it this way, but my arm and shoulder can get a little bit more fatigued. This takes all of that completely out of the game. Take a look down here. So this is the rotary cutter. Instead of having a handle that continues straight, it bends at 90 degrees. And it goes off to the right if it's right-handed, and the handle will be red if it's right-handed. And it goes off to the left, and it will be blue if it's left-handed. So they do make one for right-handed and left-handed. They also make 45 millimeter as well as 60 meter in both of those orientations. To use this rotary cutter, what you do is you hold it like a bicycle handle. And I like to put my thumb kind of over here in this plastic area. And then I just take my index finger and I put it right on top of the cutter. There's a little groove for my finger to sit in, and it just rests comfortably. There's a red shield on the back of this that protects you from the blade so you don't get cut. And to expose it, it's really fun. All you got to do is either reach your finger over here, which can be a little weird, and move that lever so that the blade is exposed, or do what I think is the most fun way to expose your blade. You just do a strike off on your cutting mat and the blade exposes itself and you're ready for cutting. So if you've got your template in front of you, you've got some fabric under it, all you really need to do is kind of do one of these numbers and then you're good to go. You can cut all day long. Pretty cool. To put that blade guard back in place and protect yourself from getting cut, all you got to do is take your finger off of the top of the rotary cutter and flick this, and it's closed and safe to be set down. You can move on about your way. Overall, this is really easy to use, and I love it because when I'm holding it, my wrist and arm stay in its natural position. I don't do any of this type stuff when I'm cutting. You know what I'm talking about? Like that, right? I don't have to do that. It stays like this. And it's designed so that the blade is supposed to be used with your wrist in that position. Also, because of the grip that you have on this rotary cutter, I don't feel like I have to apply hardly any pressure to cut through a few layers of fabric. It gets a nice clean cut as long as my blade is sharp and new. It gets a nice clean cut with barely any extra work or effort from my end. In fact, I use this to sit and cut all the time. I find when I'm standing and cutting, I still get good cuts, but my back and feet get fatigued before my arm and wrist do, which is a pretty big thing for me. You're gonna have to change your blade on this just like you would any rotary cutter, and it's a little more challenging to change the blade on the Martelli cutter than it is on like one of the Olfas. And I'm going to show you how I changed my blade because this one's a little dull and it's time to replace it. So great timing. Here's my package of replacement blades. I need to get the old blade out of here. And so what I'm going to do is turn it upside down so that my handle is going in the opposite direction of how it normally would. And then there's a screw on this side, and I'm going to turn that away from me just like this. Once the screw's out, I'm just going to set that over here. Then I'm going to take this blade guard and I'm going to move it so that my blade is exposed. And then very carefully, I'm going to touch the top and the bottom of my blade, not the side. And I'm just going to pull it out. That's my used blade. I'm going to dispose of this in a method that will keep me safe. And so for what I do, I keep a little plastic container with a slot cut in the lid, and I put all of my used needles, pins, and rotary blades in there. And honestly, it's been collecting them for years. it's still not full, but that's where I put all of them so that when it does get full, I can throw the plastic container away and my exposed blades, needles, pins won't hurt anybody in the trash. Before I put the new blade in, I do like to clean this out because there can be a buildup of lint in there. And so what I like to do is grab these plastic pieces. This one on top has a little notch that if I push down on the notch and with my thumb, I can actually get it to pop off. It does take two hands sometimes, so be aware of that. Now that I have this piece off, I can reach in here and just lift this out of the hole. I want to make sure that I leave that blade guard closed just like that, because if I open this, that spring that's holding all of this together is going to go flying, or it'll just come off and you're going to have a hard time putting that back in. So don't do that. What you're going to do here is just take a cleaning utensil, either one of these little Q-tip machine brush cleaners or just a brush, and you're just going to wipe down all of these pieces to get any trapped lint or dust off of them. And I'll even take a minute to wipe down the inside of the blade guard just like that. So I've got all of my dust nice and removed. Once I'm done cleaning, I should have 4 pieces, my screw, my 2 clear plastic pieces, and then my blade assembly. And again, that blade guard should still be closed. We're gonna grab one of our blades very carefully. Remember, they put oil in between these blades, so just slide one off. All right, now that you have all your pieces apart and you're ready to put it back together, you're going to start by putting this little clover piece back in, just like that. Snap it into place. And once that's in, you should be able to put your finger on here and close your blade guard. So I like to do this to give myself a little bit of extra protection. Then I'm going to pick up my blade very carefully, and I'm going to slide it in to position so that it's covered completely by my blade guard and the center hole is lined up with the rest of the mechanism. And I'm going to put this piece back into place, and this is going to line up in the grooves that are at the top of the rotary cutter. And you're going to line up this tab so that it goes into that groove. You're just going to push it down and click it into place. Now you're pretty much done, but you need this screw to go back in for good measure. And again, I've got my blade guard completely closed, so I'm nice and safe. I'm going to lay it upside down and I'm going to put the screw in, and this time I'm going to turn it towards me instead of away from me until I can't turn it anymore. You're just going to finger tighten it. Now you should have a rotary cutter that is ready to go. Test it out by exposing the blade and then making sure that your blade moves nice and freely on a cutting mat. Obviously you can't tell in the camera if it's moving, but I can tell you if it wasn't moving, I wouldn't be able to get it to move forward because it would be locked up. Let me show you that it's actually cutting on a piece of scrap fabric. Here's some scrap fabric I have. Here's a ruler. We're just going to make sure I can make some nice cuts without pressing too much pressure. No pressure at all, and that blade is singing. Look at that. I don't even barely have to touch the blade. It's just going absolutely beautifully. Would help if I actually followed through. This is why I love my Martelli rotary cutter, because I can cut through a lot of layers of fabric. Check this out. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4 layers of fabric right here, and I'm going to fold it in half so that it's actually 8 layers. I'll put my ruler on here, expose my blade, and I'm going to cut through all 8 of these layers of fabric with no problem. Look at that. It really didn't take any extra pressure. It just glided right through 8 layers of fabric. I absolutely love it. I can cut like this all day, as long as I have a blade that is not dull. These are wonderful rotary cutters. This is my Notion of choice. And if there is one thing in my sewing room that I would tell you I cannot live without, it's this guy. That's the Martelli rotary cutter. I love this thing. Leave me a comment down below. Let me know if you have one of these or if you've been thinking about picking one up. If you are interested in buying one, you can hop over to my shop. I carry the 45 and 60 millimeter rotary cutters, both for left-handed and right-handed. I think they're $25 or $30 depending on which one you want to get. But if you want to save a few bucks, Martelli Notions occasionally has these on sale and you can pick them up very affordably over there. And I think somebody on Amazon is actually selling them at like $12, which is ridiculous. I don't know how they're doing that, but you can find them on Amazon for I think like $12.75. I'll put link to all three of those, my store as well as Martelli's store and the Amazon listing, in the first comment down below this video. Highly recommend this. I mean, what other rotary cutter can you use and not get fatigued with and still cut through like 8 layers of fabric when you have a fresh blade? I don't know. There's one thing that I should answer before I end this video, and that is, what blade do I use in this rotary cutter? I use the Martelli blades. I have heard people say that you can interchange the Olfa endurance blades or Olfa blades into this rotary cutter. I don't know if that's true. I know the documentation that I got from Martelli told me to use the Martelli blades and that you should only use ones with the hole as a circle without the brackets in it. But you might be able to make that work. So I would tell you, test it out for yourself and see if it works. Just make sure that when you're changing out the blade, you follow the instructions that I showed you so that you can get your blade in there without nicking it on any of those plastic pieces. Thank you so much for taking a look at the Martelli rotary cutter with me. And if you are interested in picking one of these up, there are some links in the first comment down below this video where you can snag one of these. Leave me a comment down below. Let me know what you thought of this rotary cutter. What do you use? Are you looking to change over to this rotary cutter? And what other notions would you like to see me test or demonstrate in a video right here on YouTube? Thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel, ring the bell, give me a thumbs up, and I'll see you guys all in my next video. Bye.